Hi and welcome back. Why am I doing this and who am I? Because I don't want to sound like I'm gonna blow my own trumpet or anything, but I just wanted to sort of let people understand where I'm coming from and why I've got all this stuff to make music. I'm not someone who's come up through the traditional kind of route of going to university and learning how to do all this, how to produce music. I'm more of a musician that's taught himself over the years, and I think this can apply. This can apply to a lot of people out there who are like myself, who didn't unfortunately have the opportunity of going to some fantastic university like Berkeley or whatever, and came up by doing it, learning by themselves. And you can do that on YouTube now. You can learn so much. There's so much information out there. But I wanted to tell you where I came from as a musician. Back in the 80s, I became a pro musician, playing in bars and pubs and playing with local bands. And I was living in Nice at the time, in the south of France. And I spent most of my adult life in France. I'm from London originally, but London area. I was born in Hayes, which is like next to the airport, and no one wants to live there. And then I grew up in Slough. But anyway, I moved here in 1980 to the south of France. I now live in Corsica, but it's still just off the south of France. It's an island. I started playing in a band, and I was an okay sort of pianist. I taught myself as a kid and had a few lessons, and my dad was a jazz trumpeter. So I was kind of like okay with a bit. I had a jazz ear, but I wasn't brilliant, And over the couple of years that I started playing with a local band, and we had a lot of gigs locally, and we made quite a decent living doing that. So it's like I was a gigging musician basically, and I kind of learned the craft playing every day. So I did my 10,000 hours playing all the time, every night, different clubs, different situations, and that went on for years. I mean, I was doing that, and a good friend of mine from as a kid, Derek Bramble, was a very successful songwriter, producer in the 80s, and he worked with Rod Temperton, and he was in Heatwave, and he came up on his own as well, playing in a band, and he became a really, really successful producer and songwriter. And I kind of went, I want to do that, but I was nowhere near as talented. But anyway, I started buying, I bought a 4-track, and I started trying to make demos, and I sent them, and they were crap. They really sounded bad. And I was singing, my singing was really off as well, because I started singing a couple of years later. I think it was about 1986. I started singing because I was working with a guy who was a singer, and we fell out, and I just ended up singing like Billy Joel and Elton John in bars and stuff, and people liked it, so I continued. And then things moved forward, and I started building up more material and more gear, and ended up having a little studio, which was a 12-track analog, and making some decent demos, sounding pretty good. And then I got people interested in investing in a real studio, and I didn't know anything about engineering. I was just winging it completely, but I got an okay sound. And I had a 24-track digital in the end in the beginning of the 90s, but it all went pear-shaped and went bankrupt, and ended up going back into the club scene and playing and stuff like that, and continued on doing high-end events in the south of France, and made a living doing that as a pianist. But I didn't like it. I hated it. And then I bought another 8-track, digital 8-track, and started making demos again. And then all of a sudden I was listening to house music at the time in the mid-90s and going, this is really cool. It's reminds me of the disco days when I was a kid. And I ended up doing house jazz stuff for myself for a laugh. Oh yeah, in 1986 I got a gig playing with Prince in Under the Cherry Moon as a pianist. You can look me up. I'm on the film on the IMDb as a pianist, and we got to jam with him every day with the band. We were in the first scene, in the opening scene, and we got to jam, and I got to jam with him, and he kept saying to me, take a solo, man, take a solo, because I got quite good at soloing stuff on the roads. We had a Rhodes there, and we weren't playing with him in the film. We were just background musicians in the film, and he was playing in this scene in this garden party. And I ended up having with the guy, the bass player I was playing with at the time, friend, and the drummer, and some other musicians from the I think it was the symphony orchestra from Monaco, and we ended up jamming every day, and it was great. It was really great. He was such a nice guy, and he was such a great musician. And I'm really sad when he left us, and that really boosted my confidence, because if I can play with Prince, I'm good. I'm good to go. You know what I mean? And so anyway, nothing really evolved from that situation. Continued on doing what I did. So anyway, back to mid-90s, doing like listening to house and playing like doing jazz and stuff with house towards the end of the 90s, about 98, 99 it was. I decided to put it up on mp3.com, and that was under Acid Jazz at the time. And I ended up doing about, I don't know, 15, 20 tracks on there, and they were quite good. They weren't brilliantly mixed or anything, but they were on an 8-track, and I had a MIDI. I think I was working on Cakewalk at the time, and so I had as many tracks MIDI as I wanted, and I had this linked up, synced to the by MIDI to the thing I could do vocals on, and I had a sampler. I had an EMU sampler, which was really good, and so that's a good little. It's okay for making MIDI-based sort of electronic music. It was good, and I ended up being number one on mp3.com in the Acid Jazz charts. I was on the main page, and I was getting a lot of views and a lot of people buying or downloading, and you'd get paid every time someone downloaded it, they bought it or they watched it. You'd get part of the income. I was going, yeah, well, I'm getting money for that. I ended up getting quite a lot of money. I think it was like $10,000 over a year from this. I said, wow, that's cool. And then I got an email from EMI Denmark, and it was one of the labels who took care of Funkstar Deluxe, who did the Bob Marley remixes. They wanted me to work with them doing some remixes and doing an album. So I signed an album with them and started working doing remixes for them, and then just moved on from there and released loads of vinyls on different labels under the name The Rhythm Slaves, and then I started up a label, Susol Records, and then that we went through another rough patch there because MP3s came on, took over from vinyls, and all the Napster happened, and that killed vinyl off, vinyl sales, and that went down the drain, and so I became a DJ by accident. I just went out. I got a gig in a bar playing I was going to be there a month, and I was going to do like playing loungy music and stuff, and I was there 8 years, and I was doing it turned into a club at the weekend. It was like it was in Cannes, and it was a pre-DJ called the Morrison Lounge, and it was a pre sort of club bar, and people used to come there and get drunk, and it used to get really, really busy, and I was playing banging stuff, and I got more into like EDM and more like that sort of stuff. And then I ended up ghost producing for a Japanese artist, very well known Japanese, and we had 3 number ones, 3 album number ones, remixing his old group that he had that are really big out there in the 2000s, so this is like this is about 2012, 13, and so like on there I had like a lot of success with him, but I was a ghost producer, but I was well paid. And I did a lot of ghost producing for other people, then did a lot of stuff with my friend Benjamin Kid Massive, mixing and mastering for him, and he's got a label called Get Down. I did a lot of stuff for him, still do, and then we worked for some artists that he works with, ghost producing for, and they were very successful, and I was doing mastering for that, still do that. So my angle is that I basically came up from nowhere, taught myself, and I learned all this like engineering and mixing and stuff. I don't call myself a sound engineer or a mixing engineer or a mastering engineer. I'm just a musician who kind of learned, over the time. But I was lucky because when I go back to the early 2000s when I was doing the house stuff, I got to work with a friend of mine called Steve Taylor, who was I think he must be retired now. We lost contact, but anyway, he came from Berkeley, and he was a student at Abbey Road, and he went to Berkeley, and he became a really, really top end mixer, and I got to work with him on because he was in the south of France at the time, and he had to take care of his father's business, and so he kind of left the scene in Paris and came to the south of France, but wasn't in the mixing scene anymore. He was more in the teaching scene. And I got to work with him, and I learned everything off him. I learned all about EQing, compression, how to do the placement of stuff, the stereo, the depth, and mastering, and it was like I had my own Berkeley teacher for about a year. So basically, I learned through someone else who'd done it all, and then I just moved on from there and started working with my friend Derek, the guy I talked about from the 80s. He was doing mega stuff in Los Angeles, and I worked on a project with him doing remixes, and I was doing the mastering, and I got Steve to help me on that, and that's where I learned. And they blew them away and lost that. They said, "Oh, wow, it sounds brilliant." I was doing it on a PC, a Logic 5.5 on a PC, and I had all these plugins that were like, came from all over the place, and I learned how to use what I had, and how with Stephen, we mixed on these tannoys. And these tannoys up here are very flat. They're like NS10s. They don't flatter, but they're great for mixing. And I bought these focal ones, which are the cheap focal ones, which are brilliant. Got a lot of bass, and you hear the sub and everything. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. When people say, "Oh, who are you to teach us?" or who, I just think I've got a bit of experience. I've done okay. This is my temporary studio because we're building a house on the hill, and I've got a sea view from my new studio. So that's going to be coming soon. We're going to be showing how I'm doing this studio. The walls are going up. The whole house is built. I'm doing this with my daughter and her husband, who are influencers. They've got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube and TikTok and that. So they're doing a project up there, and we've got a house next to theirs on the land and that. So it's going to be great. The studio is going to be really good. So lots of things happening. And I got through cancer as well. I had stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer, which I'm still in treatment for, but it's going great, and I'm in remission, so that's all going good. And I'm working with a new DJ who's going to be successful. Can't talk about it yet, but I'm working with a new guy as an associate producer with him, and we've already signed. We're signing to a big label in France. Hopefully, it's been verbally confirmed, so we'll see. But anyway, so I'm kind of coming from an angle where I've done it all by myself, and so you can do it as well. You don't have to go to schools, you don't have to have the best gear in the world. You can come up with next to nothing and make a track nowadays on a laptop. So there's and I think today's business is brilliant. I think the model and AI coming up to help you run your company, and it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes. But so that's why I do this, because I want to give back a bit, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking, as you can see. But anyway, I hope you like this video and you've learned a little bit about me and what I do. And see you in the next video. Like, subscribe. See you soon. Ciao.